So before we launch into our talk tonight on the Beta Sound Trail, I have a couple of announcements about other programs coming up. On Sunday, March 16th, we will be collaborating with the Turtleback organization to have a Return of the Osprey event. It'll be at 2 o'clock at Breakwater Beach in Mattituck. There'll be a beach cleanup. There will be some building of symbolic fencing and outreach about protecting shorebirds. 2 days later, on Tuesday, March 18th, we will have our monthly Tuesdays with Tom bird walk with Tom Damiani. That will be 8 o'clock in the morning at the Paul Stoutenberg Preserve in Southold on Main Road. And then
It's on now. It came on.
on Saturday,
This program.
on Saturday, March 22nd at 10 a.m., we're having Don Lanham from the Elizabeth Alexander Wildlife Refuge give us a talk on wildlife rescue. So learn how the first steps towards helping wildlife in distress. And that's at 10 o'clock in the morning at the Red House at Inland Pond County Park. So if you need more information or if you want to sign up for those things, please go to the North Fork Audubon website and look at the events listing.
Hear from the Ukrainians here as they meet the Americans.
So with that, I will take this opportunity to introduce our speaker tonight. John Sepenoski is the Geographic Information Systems lead for the whole town of Southold. He manages maps. He gets to be out in the field quite a bit, and he is never without his binoculars. John is a prolific and terrific birder. He's going to fill us in on the Beta Sound Trail that's been in development for several years. If you have questions during the talk, I would request that you send them to me via the Zoom chat feature, and I will collect them and sift out any duplicates. And I'll ask John the questions. So with that, I'll turn it over to you, John, to tell us all about the Beta Sound Trails.
Okay. First of all, I scrolled through the participants here, and I see I've got some repeat customers, and I recognize quite a few people that I actually know personally, so that's always a good sign to me. So this is really, ultimately, this is an informal presentation. It just started out as talking points, and when I would do this live, I would just start talking and I would just look in the audience, and if people raised their hands, I would let them sort of control where we got to by their questions. So I'm okay with doing that here. So for now, I'm just going to start out reading this first paragraph. This was sort of our original mission statement. The Beta Sound Integrated Trail Initiative proposes the expansion of a trail network linking Suffolk County, Southold Town, and Greenport Village preserves and parkland, allowing residents and visitors to walk or bicycle between the Peconic Bay waterfront and the shores of Long Island Sound, as well as between the various preserves and parks in the village and hamlets of Greenport within the town of Southold. The project formally began in 2007 when the town, village, and Suffolk County agreed to partner on the project. And the true origin was when the village approached the town at a work session. And they had come up with some trail-related work they wanted to do, and they wanted the town to partner. And the town ended up agreeing at that work session live. And the original things the village talked about were they wanted to expand McCann Trailer Park. So they were discussing wetlands permits with the DEC. And the DEC told them that if they would provide access to Silver Lake, they would begin stocking Silver Lake with game fish. And the village liked that idea. So they wanted to do a boardwalk into Silver Lake. And at the time, they were also very interested in bike paths. They had created their own bike path layout that looped around the village, Front Street, 5th Street, 6th Street Beach, and ended up coming down Morse Lane. And at the time, they were very interested in getting people to Clark's Beach, which is actually not within the village, but is owned by the village. So they wanted to encourage people to bike their way over there, as at the time they considered it open space. And the initial funding for this was there ended up being two sources: the New York State DOT, which was an inactive grant the town had in place for our Seaview Trails bike path project, which actually dates all the way back to the Tom Wickham administration. And when that was active, the village and the town were not on the same page, so the village did not want to participate, and that money just sort of sat around for a while. But when they approached us about this, scrambled, and we needed to spend some money to reactivate the grant and then apply for an extension. And the $35,000 was actually a group for East End. They got involved in the project very early, and they lobbied Suffolk County to give us that money. That ended up being used for natural heritage surveys of the entire project area. And that included in the Pond County Park, which is where Audubon is housed. So the work we got done during the initial phase, so the initial phase of the project we define as fall of 2007, when the village approached the town, and 2015, where we began looking into applying for a grant for another phase. So we did the Natural Heritage Program flora and fauna surveys of the entire project area. We mapped all the existing trails and bike routes, developed a GIS database for planning and implementation purposes. We identified cleanup areas, including illegal dumping areas and dilapidated buildings. And this ended up being a real education here, because anytime we thought we'd done a great job at identifying all of those, as soon as we actually started cleaning them up, we realized they were far worse than we thought. Just there's so many dumps out there. We ended up doing 533 hours of volunteer cleanups. We removed dilapidated buildings and a septic system from property that certain people in McCall will recognize as Manor Grove. That's the Route 25 entrance to Arshamamak Preserve now, just west of Drossos. When we bought that, there was some junk barns and farm equipment and a very marginal house. We got all that cleaned up. We created two new trails at Inland Pond County Park, which included the Nectar Trail into Moore's Woods, and it also included the Clark's Beach Trail. We installed bike racks at town, county, and village locations. We designed and constructed boardwalks, parking areas, steps, hiker gates, safety fencing, and the like for both Inland Pond County Park and Arshamamak Preserve. That's where we spent money to prove the original Seaview Trails project was still active, so we could get the extension to the grant. We developed overall conceptual designs of trails to link everything together. We replaced the footbridge at the end of Pipes Neck Road. That ended up being destroyed in Superstorm Sandy. We developed specific trail layouts for new sections of the trail system. We ended up acquiring additional properties, so that included the Manor Grove property. And we developed habitat restoration plans for daylighting of Moore's Drain at Skipper Horton Park, which was a recommendation of the Peconic Estuary Partnership. They had done a whole study of that. Now, I have to go into the big negative, though. You'll see here that almost none of the stuff I mentioned to you that the village wanted to do got done. And that's because after we got the extension and we're ready to move forward on the boardwalk, we had a meeting with the village, and at that meeting they informed us they did not want to do that anymore. And basically almost everything they originally talked about fell by the wayside. So the only thing we really ended up doing in the village was we did install several bike racks, and we did do significant cleanups of the Silver Lake area and Moore's Woods. And for those of you that have moved here more recently, Silver Lake used to be the village's municipal dump. So we were cleaning that up. So that's been very disappointing. It almost derailed the project because we were very stunned, and our supervisor at the time, who would have been Scott Russell, pulled me into his office and told me that he wanted to pull the plug on the Beta Sound project because the village pulled out, and he never thought we would get cooperation from them again. And he said, but I'm going to defer to you on this. And I just told him, I'm frustrated they dropped out, but the county's still with us. There's plenty that we need to do on county properties. There's plenty we need to do on properties we own jointly with the county. And even if the county disappears, there's plenty we need to do on our own properties. To Scott's credit, he said, we're going to keep going. And this was, since he said that, we've acquired just over $1 million of grant funds for the project. So it would be nice if we had another partner, but it just didn't work out that way. So as of the completion of the first phase of the project in 2015, we had 657 acres of publicly owned preserves and parks within the project area. 234 acres of this property featured trails and our recreational infrastructure and were available for public use. We had 6.5 miles of nature trails, 7 miles of bike paths that are part of the Greenport Village's bike trail system, and South Old Town Seaview bike trail system, as well as the New York State designated bike routes 25 and 114. Then we applied, in 2016, we applied for our first Beta Sound specific grant. And for this, we did ask the village to provide us with budgetary information, both in writing and face-to-face at a meeting, and they did not wish to do so. And we did include cleanups at Silver Lake in this grant project. Unfortunately, got to that point, they wouldn't give us permission to do that work, and we ended up updating our contract with the state to clean up the junkyard at Arshomamak Preserve instead. So it didn't really hurt us, but again, we tried to partner and it just didn't work out. Phase 2 was a significant expansion. We created 3.5 miles of new trails, opened up 116 acres of additional open space. We did 8 new boardwalks crossing wetland areas, 16 new short boardwalks for non-wetland areas, 2 new trailhead parking areas. One of those is the Manor Grove parking area. The other is the Pipes Neck Road parking area for Pipes Cove Preserve. 3 new kiosks for Arshomamak Preserve and Pipes Cove Preserve. 2 new observation towers. There's the new, what's called the new tower now at Arshomamak Preserve, and the Sill Tower at Pipes Cove Preserve. Over 63,000 pounds of trash and junk equipment was removed from the project area. We did remediation removal of the northern house on the Sill property. We restored the Sill house area. We daylighted Moore's Drain at Skipper Horton Park as recommended by PEP. We did invasives removal and native plantings. We did citizen science research and nature programs to expand on existing flora and fauna inventories, volunteer trash cleanups throughout the project area, development of educational materials and public outreach related to stormwater, habitat restoration, the Peconic Estuary, and the Beta Sound Trails project, including installation of 4 interpretive signs for Arshomamak Preserve and Skipper Horton. And those of you familiar with those locations will probably know that one of those is the River Otter sign at Arshomamak Preserve, and there's also a vernal pool sign at Arshomamak Preserve, and at Skipper Horton Park we did multiple bird-related signs there. We updated all our online maps depicting trails, parking areas, etc., and we ended up with over 400 hours of volunteer trail work for that. And the year after we applied for that, we applied for another grant, which is phase 3. That was $120,000. We did get it, and in this case, this was to clean up the southern Sill parcel, which was where the bulk of the structures for the former Sill Dairy were. And this project is actually still active. We just found out recently we were given an extension, but we have till the end of this year to finish this off. And at this point, Volunteers picked up 1,675 pounds of trash, and volunteers then began staging material for highway to pick up. So they have removed over 30 tons from that location. There's another 25 tons waiting for pickup, all of which was prepped by volunteers. Group reached end, began inventorying flora. When we're done here, we're going to try to remove invasives and restore natives. And about half of the trail layout is actually in place here, but it's not open to the public because of the dangerous conditions with the buildings. And some of those trails do have boardwalks. And we needed to develop an LIR access plan for getting equipment over the tracks. And we did have an RFP. What happened was we went out to bid twice. We were unable to find qualified bidders. We're going to be going out again sometime this year, and we're confident we will find qualified bidders this time. And we also, one of the hitches with the original RFPs were we couldn't find anyone qualified to handle the asbestos, but we ended up handling that on its own. Most of it was done last June. The last of it was done last September, so that's now done. So we've made the project easier. And on phase 3, we're still going. So we got the cleanup and removal of the rest of the dilapidated buildings, which means the silo, the dairy barn, the milk barn, the house, and some concrete walkway and concrete pool areas. And we need to finish off the trails. The phase 3 is actually between phase 2 and phase 5. So we have to get 3 done in order to properly connect up to the phase 5 trails. Still is a pretty small parcel, so it's only 0.3 of a mile there, but it's a key 0.3 to hook up the 2 phases. We're going to be continuing with volunteer trash cleanups, and we're going to be doing some native plantings and restoration. And I'm going to jump past 4 for now because we're actually out of order. The original phase 4 was going to be privately funded. We didn't need a grant, but Suffolk County Parks wouldn't approve moving forward. So, and we had our phase 5 grant ready to go. So we applied for that, got that, and have started work on that. So I'm going to go through phase 5 first because it's factual. So we got another just over $250,000, and this first number is probably the most impressive. Volunteer trash cleanups totaling over 111,228 pounds, so over 55 tons has been removed by volunteers. We currently are at 1,678 volunteer hours for this work, and on this particular grant, state grant, so we get $15 an hour for volunteer work, but the state gives us 3 times that, so we're getting $45 an hour from the state to do other work, buy materials, pay town salaries, hire contractors, and the like. And we have the trail, we have the trail layouts all set for Pipes Cove Preserve, Orshomamak County Park. And for those of you that don't know that one, that's the corner of Albertson and 48 in Greenport. It actually is older than Orshomamak Preserve, but there were never any public trails established there. It was purely for hunters. And we also are working at Clay Pit County Park, which is the old clay pit on Route 25, just as you're getting into Greenport from Southold. Currently have about 20% of the trails at Pipes Cove Preserve ready to go. At Orshomamak County Park, we're at 90%, and at Clay Pit County Park, we're at 90%. We designed an auto latrine educational sign that's totally finished. It's now set up at the Sill Tower at Pipes Cove Preserve, and by the time we're done, we're going to have 18 on the ground boardwalks and 5 on the ground boardwalks actually, we already have, the 18 have already been constructed. We haven't installed them all yet. We've installed 5 of those. Phase 5, we still need to clear about 2.5 miles of trails and parking areas, which will result in 60 acres of land open to the public. Just at Pipes Cove Preserve, going to be doing additional trails at Oshawa County Park. That's going to be about 1.4 miles. That's an additional 75 acres of land to the public. In this particular case, though, for full disclosure, much of that is Phragmites wetlands. It's not going to really be that accessible. And the big thing about Oshawa County Park is we're linking it to Oshawa Preserve. So those, by trails, those two locations will effectively end up being one location as we move forward. And the clay pit's a small property. Most of it is the actual clay pit itself. So we're going to end up doing about a half mile of trails, parking area at that one too. And this one is kind of isolated from the other properties, but it is connected by State Bike Route 25. So it is within the project area. We're also going to be doing 2 footbridges over Pipes Neck Creek and Moore's Drain, which will let us loop at Pipes Cove Preserve to Silvermere Road and back by using the railroad crossings on the roads. So there'll be a long loop around there, which is probably going to be the focal point of the work for the second half of the project. Construction of 2 boardwalks at Oshawa County Park. As of today, one of those was started. Construction of 3 boardwalks at Clay Pit County Park. Those were actually finished last week. And we're going to need additional on-the-ground boardwalks at Pipes Cove Preserve. If any of you are familiar with the Frank and Reese properties, both sides of the tracks, there's all sorts of ditching there. North of the tracks, it was ditched by one of the brick yards, and south, it was ditched for residential development to try to keep it dry. So there's just a lot of man-made ditches. That's what all those are going to be for. And we're cleaning up old dumps. Oshawa County Park, basically, virtually the whole property was a junkyard and a dump at some point. There's just junk all over the place there. And we'll be doing educational signs for the kiosks and website. So now I'm going to jump back to 4. We actually have this in place, but we don't have the contract in place. It's been awarded, so we're going to be getting this, and it's just under $380,000. And this project is important to Norfolk Audubon because you are literally in the contract for this. So we're going to be working at Skipper Horton Park, and the main things here are going to be we're going to remove the rest of Old Main Road that's been abandoned. One section of it's not abandoned. It's still a valid town road. We're going to be upgrading all the paths there now to ADA standards and doing parking areas. We're going to be doing ADA picnic tables. We're going to be doing native plantings, 2 additional kiosks for educational materials, and clean up a lot of historic trash. There's a lot of abandoned water pipes and highway posts and concrete from the old road. And to the best of our knowledge, this will be the first time the town has ever proactively done passive ADA work, done active stuff, but we don't believe we've ever proactively done passive recreation ADA. Pipes Cove Preserve, this is not really major work, but we're going to be creating a new trailhead to come in from the roads on Conklin Point. Is a town entrance there. We're going to be trying to set up some kayak launch landing sites at Pipes Neck Road within the interior of the trail system and Silvermere Road. And we also are analyzing a culvert under Pipes Neck Road to figure out right sizing it as part of tidal restoration there. For those of you familiar with the north end of the road there, there's a pond on the county park property, and much of it is now choked with frag because it's not getting enough tidal flow. So we're trying to to fix that issue. And then at Inlet Pond County Park, we're going to be doing a boardwalk, an additional trailhead kiosk, parking area fencing and lighting upgrades. And then on phase 4, we're doing a bunch of habitat restoration. So Inlet Pond County Park is going to be Phragmites, beach and woodland native plantings, removal of accumulated deadfall from the shoreline of Inlet Pond. At Archimamic Preserve, we're going to be doing Phragmites removal. Sepenoski Preserve, we're going to be doing Phragmites removal and the culvert right sizing. And Skipper Horton Park will be doing native plantings. We're going to develop additional educational and kayak signage. We're going to do trash cleanups throughout the project area. We're going to do public outreach and programming. We're going to be purchasing supplies and tools for cleanups. We're going to have volunteer opportunities for trail work, trash cleanup, and habitat restoration. And at this point, I want to skip over to some other stuff. During the initial phase back here, very first phase, Audubon was involved here, and I think a lot of people have forgotten this. So I want to jump over and just go into some of my spreadsheets here. So this was the final match provided for the county funds that funded the natural heritage surveys. And you can see here that Norfolk Audubon was, I guess, the number 3 on this list here. And the details here were a lot of trail work, and hopefully I didn't see any of these names on, and I know 2 of them will not be on. But Bev Prentice, I'm sure at least some of you remember Bev. She now would be Robertson. Don't know her. She was instrumental in getting the county to actually preserve the section of the park that contains the nature center. Tom Damiani, I'm sure you know, they were very involved here. And the county allowed educational programming to count as match too. So Rick and Lynn Kettenberg, who unfortunately are no longer with us, they were heavily involved in this. And later on, Jody Levin got involved. The last I knew, Jody was still one of the main AS trip leaders. So Audubon was heavily involved at this point. And originally, we were supposed to do a sign for Inlet Pond County Park, but Audubon ended up not wanting to do that, so that ended up being done at Skipper Horton Park. All right, so do you want to start? Actually, the one question that was submitted beforehand was, are all of the trails approved? And if not, what can we do to get them improved? They are all approved already. Everything we're currently working on is approved by town, county, and DEC via a permit. So do you want to hit me with some other questions? Do you want to look at maps, or where do you want me to go now?
John, I'll ask one other question we got in advance, and that is who monitors and maintains the wood duck boxes at our shamanic preserve? A tree branch has knocked over one of the boxes, and we don't know who to contact about taking care of it.
That's, I guess at this point, it's probably no one. Originally, those were done, I think, through the summer camp at Peconic Dunes before Cornell Cooperative took that over. And we tried early on to get a complete list of where they were, but to the best of my knowledge, I know some of them have fallen into disrepair, but I don't think anyone officially is taking care of them. If anyone's interested, let me know. We're not going to tell you, no, you can't do it, but we would like to know. And early on, there was one scout project. They added a few boxes, but for some reason, I think they skewed towards Pipes Cove Preserve and not our Shamanic Preserve.
Okay, thanks. So there's no one in the town that
I think there's a couple of comments that people have just
Okay.
put in. And John, this is Peggy. I just wanted to say, this is just overwhelming, the amount of work that you have put into this and like all the moving parts. My goodness, kudos to you.
It is.
You know, we just love the trails but when, you know, this really makes you take a look at all the pieces that had to go into making them what they are and will be. So thank you for your incredible work and dedication.
It's well, my joke response to that is the project is going to be eligible to vote this fall because it's turning 18. And part of it is what worked here was when Scott Russell didn't pull the plug, we, at least the town, committed to it long term. We weren't always able to work on it. Like right now in phase 5, I'm not going to lie, I thought these boardwalks that I told you that are partially done at this point, I thought they were going to be done by May of 2023.
Right, you had to shoot
We're
from
well
the hip.
behind, but we keep at it, and the daylighting of Moore's Drain, that was inspired by the Peconic Estuary Partnership, and since the town was involved with that, we knew it, and I said, well, I'll put it into a grant application, and ended up getting it. So we met PEP's goal of what to do there, which was daylight it. And so we're looking at this broadly, and we're by looking at it broadly and committing it to it long term, that's why we are steadily making progress.
Okay.
Yes, again, I'm so glad you know, I'm glad that you were able to get it through the town in spite of the hurdles there. Had no idea.
Well, ultimately, you have to give the board at the time, which is, I think, only maybe one member that's still left, but it was one of the board members. I happened to be at the work session appointment when the village made their pitch, and they were talking about, we need to map this, we need to map that, and one of the board members just ended up saying, I see John Sepp back there, he's our map guy, let's give the project to him. So that's how it happened. And, for full disclosure, originally Group Free Stand was really moving the project forward, but with what happened with the village, they got stuck in it too. And so they actually took a vacation from it because the village would criticize them for not moving fast enough, and then a month later criticize them for moving too fast and go back and forth.
Oh my God.
So they finally said, we're taking a step out of it. And they came back in when we got phase 2 grant. And they ended up, we went out to bid for someone to coordinate the volunteers and develop the educational materials. And they bid, and if I remember correctly, they were the only bidder. So they did come back into the project. And now it would be hard to imagine the project without them.
So, John, we have some other questions. I know, Margaret, are you?
I can,
Yeah. We have some
first
other
off,
questions.
I wanted to, John, read a couple of comments to you. Thank you so much for all your and the team's work. You delivered so much public benefit, and thank you for all your work and dedication to this project. I'm stunned. Amazing amount of dedication and physical work besides the planning. Never realized how much trash was there. So we do have 3 folks saying we'd love to see the maps. And in connection with the maps, we had a couple of questions about locations of some of the properties you've mentioned, including Clay Pit County Park and Sills Dairy. So if you pull up maps and could talk a little bit about those 2 locations, that would hit a couple of questions.
Yep, I set up to be able to do that online.
Awesome.
So this is actually internal only. There is a public version of this, but this is a map we created. Anytime we spot any trash, we do flag it in the field for eventual cleanup. So the red ones on this are stuff we still know we need to clean up, and probably the more impressive, though, is the green stuff that we've already removed. All this green stuff is gone. So Clay Pit County Park is back here. This is the old Clay Pit. This would have been Stanford, and it was fouled after the '38 hurricane. It was inundated with salt water, which ruined the clay. And this is the current trail layout. The yellow on this map means these trails already there. The red isn't quite there yet because this area where I'm pointing to right now, that needed to be like a 50 or 55-foot boardwalk, and that is now there. So this red should soon be yellow. And then that will be it for this, except for a parking area. But as of right now, the county hasn't signed off on the parking area. But this is Clay Pit County Park, and the long-term history here is, and I only fairly recently found out about this, but town actually wanted to acquire this property circa 1990. And the big hitch with it was nobody could figure out how much of the property was wetlands, which is completely alien to me, because since I've been here, the town makes heavy use of the wetlands maps, and we got into GIS pretty quick after I started here. And so to me, it's like, I can't imagine that you couldn't figure out roughly how much wetlands was here. And then there was a little more activity later in the 90s, but what ended up happening is the town had to choose between Downs Farm Preserve or this property, and the town chose Downs Farm Preserve, which probably was the right decision at that time, given its national importance as a Native American archaeological site.
Yeah, and the other question was about,
what was the other one? They didn't know where it was.
yeah, Sills Dairy.
Sills, okay, Sills, yeah, Sills, okay.
Sills.
So Sills, let me just go ahead and throw the fax parcels on. So Sills, and let me turn the trails off for a minute. All right. So Sills is this odd-shaped parcel and this parcel directly across the tracks. And back in the day, their fence actually goes all the way to the drain here. So they actually used all of this as pasture as well, even though they didn't own it. So it's these two. This is where the bulk of, and on these aerials, you can figure out where the bulk of the, so there's the silo. You can barely see it, but this whole area here, going all the way back here, coming like this, is the dairy barn. And in this aerial, dairy barns are already collapsed. This is the milk house right here. So this would have been both heated and cooled, heated to keep the milk from freezing in the winter, cooled to keep it from spoiling in the warmer months. And on this particular aerial, it's really tough to see, but this is actually a house. Part of it is brick and part of it is wood. And then there's other various little things in here that you're not going to be able to see. And when it was a dairy farm, all of these trees here would not be here, and virtually all of these trees wouldn't be here. And you can almost feel that on this aerial here. These trees are thicker than here. This was all pasture land. So, and for some reason, this whole section here came back to where there's hardly any invasives. Not the case down here. There's a lot of invasives here, but for some reason, this is a very nice quality area here. And so for phase 5, this is one bridge. This is the other bridge. Let me zoom. And so you'll see, you'll be able to come through Sill, go over here, come out here, get out to Silvermere Road, and then come back in this property, then pick up the other bridge here. So you'll be able to loop all the way. Right now, we only consider the western side of this to be open to the public. And this is all hooked up to Skipper Horton. We got a trail here to go to Skipper Horton. And these red areas are the proposed additions to the ADA. Here. This is actually, this is older. This has already been daylighted. Let's see if it's shown that way. I guess it's not. This is an older aerial, but this section of the road is now gone. There's a nice footbridge over it. This is the section that'll be removed in phase 4. and we will be adding another parking area roughly in this area to that. And this trail is really just a paved path here, and that'll all be upgraded to ADA, and then we're going to make a new loop on the side of the property. So that's the phase 4 work.
Okay. So we had another question, John. In general, what amount of foot traffic can preserves and parks in the Beta Sound Trail accommodate in a season, say, without causing environmental harm?
That's going to be really tough for me to answer. What I can say is Orshimamic Preserve is now our number 2 in popularity. It's behind only Ruth Oliver Preserve in East Marion, and we are not seeing any damage from normal usage. Once in a while, the dirt bikes and the ATVs get in there and cause significant damage, but we're not seeing anything negative at this time. And just recently, one of the things, when I jump back into the future stuff, we want to get private landowners involved in the project as well. And so if we can, and they recently asked me how many people are walking Orshimamic Preserve annually, and I had to tell them I honestly don't know. All I can tell you is when we expanded the trails as part of phase 2, that usage increased significantly, but I can't put an exact number on it. Orshimamic Preserve, it's going to be rare that you can go to Orshimamic Preserve and be alone. Other preserves the town has, it's not unusual that you will be alone. So I wish I could give you more. I'm probably going to start. I went through a spell where on my personal visits, I would count people in cars. So I might start trying to track that again. But at this time, I don't think we're damaging anything.
Mhm.
But
And can I say that, you know, because we love to walk these trails, I wish more people would walk the trails, and we rarely encounter other people. And, you know, all this beautiful work you're doing, I hope more people enjoy them. I don't think we're ever in danger of too many people enjoying them, unfortunately, because so many people are worried about ticks, or they just don't get out there, you know. So I feel like we need to encourage more people to walk these trails and not worry about too many at this point.
And I agree with that. I would just add, though, people also should be following the rules. So I don't know if any of you are into Downs Farm Preserve, but dog shit is just completely off the hook and not acceptable. That's because people aren't following the rules. The rules there are you must pick it up and take it off site. But nobody follows that, and they don't leash their dogs either. But so I'm always, if people follow the rules, we're certainly going to be fine. But unfortunately, there was one period in Beta Sound here where both Orshimamic Preserve and Pipes Cove Preserve were having significant trail damage from dirt bikes and ATVs. So I'll show you one spot that they just totally destroyed. This here is the property that we purchased from the Pecunkas, who I think they still live right here. We purchased this, and right up in here, there's the vernal pool here. You can kind of see this is vernal pool, and we have a boardwalk going over this. They were in here and here with their ATVs, and they ripped it up so much. You would have thought county was dredging this creek here and had a pipe coming in here and was pumping stuff in here. That's how bad it was. And they ended up trail here. They had ruts that were probably 2 feet deep. And once that happens, when you try to walk there, your foot's 2 feet below grade. But luckily one of them moved away, and one of them ended up getting arrested for DWI type driving on an ATV within the village of Greenport. So since then, it's only been a couple sporadic, but there was one point where another one here that was bad was this trail. The ATVs would totally destroy this. We would have volunteers get it all regraded and set up so it was nice, and they'd ride. A week later, they'd spend 1 hour here, and you couldn't even tell that the volunteers had done any work. Totally stripped it.
Amazing.
Other
One
questions?
other
comments?
question. Yeah, one more. Can you talk a little bit about hunting season and hiking and if there are issues?
There are issues. I guess last week complained about the nuisance hunting signs again. And I don't know if anyone on the call is aware of this, but the standard deer hunting season for us, there's like a 1 week season in September. So it's open for like a week in September, then it's closed. The main season starts October 1st and runs through January 31st. After January 31st, some of our locations switch to a nuisance hunting program. And the problem with those signs is they do not acknowledge status of hikers at all. So most people interpret this. I think that signs say nuisance hunting in progress, February 1st through April 30th or whatever it is. And most people interpret that as, oh, there are people out there right now hunting, so I'm not allowed to be here. It isn't actually the case. The public is allowed to be there, and the nuisance hunting, they have to stay within the same zones they would during the regular season, where both hunting and hiking are allowed on some of the town properties. In some cases, the town properties are closed to the public, period. But Archimamic Preserve and Pipes Cove Preserve are both in the open to both user groups. The hunters, though, are supposed to stay in defined zones that were designed to be off trail. And that's why the hunter-only trails, if you're a regular Archimamic Preserve, I know they were all vandalized, but if you look at the kiosk map, the legend shows you a yellow sign that's hunters only. And when you see that in the field, the hikers should not be walking there because those are literally for hunters, period. And supposedly they're going to rework the nuisance sign so that it says hunters must stay in the zones, hikers are allowed here, hikers should remain on the public trails, similar to the base program signs that go up for October typically, that say this location is open to hikers and hunters, or there are some locations that are only open to the hunters, just to clarify that. So hopefully we will get through that. And the one negative I found at just in doing a site visit at Play Pit is the county. This is not in the county's hunting program, but when I was there setting up one of the boardwalks, there's a brand new deer stand here illegally. And the rule of the county on this is if there's no hunting there and I spot a deer stand, I'm to take it down. If hunting is allowed and it gets to be a month or more outside of the hunting season at the end, I'm to take it down because the county's rule is you can have it during the hunting season. Hunting season's over, they want you to pull it.
Okay. There is a
And
question.
I would just say, because this keeps coming up, I would say if anyone has concerns and complaints about any of this, get it to the town in writing.
Very good.
It will make a difference.
Okay, so you've referred a couple of times to damage from ATVs and maybe signs being vandalized. So we have two questions about those problems. One is, what ideas do you have for effective stewardship and enforcement to prevent uh, landscape damage by ATVs? And is there something that we can do to help with signage and to get signs up?
On ATVs, uh, it got very frustrating because at the height of it, I was routinely reporting to Southold Police Department, and they mobilized to the point where they actually have an ATV that they can use to patrol. So it sounded like, well, you guys will patrol here, and you'll have to run into these guys, but rarely did that happen. I got a little annoyed at one point because they would say we can't get them because they disappear between Silvermere and Pipes Neck Road, so we can never catch them. And my response was, well, yeah, they get off at Sill. Why don't you just have your ATV guy wait at Sill? And when they come into Sill, you see them. But so, and again, the one guy they ended up catching him in Moore's Woods. It was nothing to do with our property. They ended up catching him in Moore's Woods because he was riding around like at midnight in the village of Greenport. That's why they got him. And the other guy fortunately moved away and ended up where there was basically an abandoned farm that he had permission to actually ride on. So he started riding there, which is fine with me. And what was the other part of that?
Is there anything we could do to help, specifically to get signs up? I think this was in the discussion about signs with respect to hunters.
If it's about hunters, just try to either email me or get an email to the supervisor or DPW. If it gets to me, I'll make sure that it gets to the other people. Not always confident the other departments would jump on it. But if you have concerns, put them in writing. I mean, my personal concern about Ashmonic Preserve this past season was prior to the season starting, I had reported that all of the hunter-only trail signs were gone. And here it is, March, none of them were ever replaced. And I reported it multiple times. And to me, I'm an engineer, so we have those signs for a reason. And during the hunting season, it's to protect the hunters so they don't have hikers disturbing where they're hunting so they can get more deer. And the deer numbers, we set records on road kills in 2024. We obviously need to do a lot more to reduce the deer population. At the same time, leaving those signs up for the summer season to make sure that the public still doesn't walk them is better, because the minute the public starts walking them part of the year, they're going to forget by the time October comes around, and they're not really going to see the signs. I mean, I'm a regular Ashmonic Preserve. I don't see the signs unless I go there saying I have to look for the signs, because I'm there all the time. I know which way I'm going to go. I don't need to see where the arrows point. And so if you would report that, and if you see any vandalism, just try to report it to us. And I believe the current, if it's a newer kiosk map, the number for DPW and me and Suffolk County Parks, if they are owner or co-owner, should be on there. So that's also a place we can call and report. And we basically, in the Beta Sound area, the town ends up handling the trail work at the county properties too. So eventually it'll get to us. But if you have to, pick my number.
Great. Thanks so much, John. I don't see any other new questions coming in. So I want to, on behalf of everyone who's participating, there's all this glowing comments about this terrific work and the heroic work removing trash and interest in some of these lesser known parcels. So thank you so much for taking us through this and for all your hard work.
Can I just finish the future phases portion that
Oh,
I stopped
sure.
at?
Yes.
All right. So we have about another 100 acres of publicly and open space that only features minimal trails where we want to create additional trails. If we do that with everything we've already done, there's going to end up being 15 miles of hiking trails. There are opportunities to expand the trails into privately owned lands, including commercial properties that could benefit from offering additional entry points to and destinations from the trail system. Multiple private entities have expressed interest in partnering in the future, and we hopefully have something positive cooking in there. We currently have about 300 acres of land within the project area that's on our community preservation project plan, which means it's eligible for us to either acquire or acquiring easements that would allow further expansion of the project. And we are slowly working on updating that plan. And so another 80 acres have been identified that we're gonna add hopefully on the next round. And we also are keeping an eye on the county hike and bike master plan project and have made suggestions about expanding bike paths there. And beyond phase 4, we have been discussing kayak trails. We know probably when we first started this, our Greenport Hamlet stakeholders had recommended that we try to connect up all of these preserved properties before the village had approached us, and they got seriously into hoping we could do kayak trails. That's still out there. We haven't made much progress yet, but that's out there too. And we do want to start getting the Blue Way trails involved in this as well.
Well, that sounds great. I love the idea that we're moving from land to water, since it is a beta sound project.
Yes.
Yeah. So another comment, great presentation, greatly appreciate all your hard work and leadership. And I know I personally had no idea how long this had been going on. It's really a testament to your staying power and all the volunteers you've been able to muster. But I
Yeah,
seeing
I think we're now over 200 unique volunteers for phase 5.
Mhm.
That's unique, different people that have volunteered at least once.
Yeah.
Obviously, we have some regulars that have probably volunteered 100 times now, but we're over 200 people.
Okay. So I don't see any further questions. Last call, I guess, for questions, and then don't see any coming. Oh, kudos for all your hard work and dedication, John. From Louise.
Thank you.
All right. Well,
From
John,
who?
thanks. Louise Harrison.
Oh, okay, Louise. I didn't see her name on there. Okay.
Yeah. Yes. Uh, okay. So thanks so much, everyone, for joining. Linda asks, how can we contact John? I can tell you, Linda, that if you go to the town website, there's an employee directory and you can find his email address there as well as his phone number. Okay. I think we're good. John, thanks ever so much for this update. It's terrific.
Okay, sure.
And I think we'll all think of you when we walk these trails.
And I
Okay.
wouldn't mind people volunteering.
Well, we have
I
the
know there's a few
contact.
names here.
We have the
Actually,
email addresses of everybody who registered, so we will
okay.
we'll share opportunities with them.
You did wood chips for us at Oshamamak Preserve, right?
Yes, I
You would load the
did.
wood chips out with the wheelbarrow. Yep.
And it was not a small
Peggy helped us
wheelbarrow.
with trash. Melissa Spiros helps significantly with trash. She likes to do Chapel Lane. So I got to see a bunch of my volunteers out here.
Yes, and maybe we'll get a few more. All
Okay.
right.
All right.
Thanks, everybody. Oh, one
Take care.
last question. Where can we find
Oh.
maps of the preserves? I know they're on the town website.
Yeah, if you contact me, the other thing I had ready to go if we needed it was our public trails map. This is just an app online, so if you contact me via email, I'll just send you the link. But this just shows all of the areas in town that have trails as you zoom in. you can get information here. So you noticed you said something about Tom doing an event at Paul Stoutenberg. So you can get the basic information. It's 53 acres, 1.1 miles, and you can even get into the eBird. Oh, nobody's reported anything this year. No, there we go. I'm sorry, it's just slow. So you even get the eBird links for what's been reported so far this year. But that's just something where if you contact me, I'll send you the link.
Okay,
And
great.
it's not just town. This is any place where there's public trails where the owners granted us permission to include. So we got the Southwold Park District at Hortons Point. There's a short but very nice trail in the woods there. But we got Housing Nature Conservancy cooperated, so we got Housing Pond here. And the one thing I'm missing is I want to get Alex State Park Preserve, which I know most of it's in Riverhead, but the easternmost section is actually in Southold. So I want to get that on here at some point, but right now they don't have any trails on the Southold section. So I'd have to rename it, I guess, but at some point that'll be added. And actually, we just recently, I'm assuming some of you must know Randy Wade. She asked me to put the bike trails on here. That's what this is. This is our Seaview bike trails. It's this sort of light blue line here. That's the Seaview bike trails.
Wow.
Okay.
Okay. None of us have any excuse for staying indoors. Okay. Okay. Thanks very much.
Okay, sure.
Okay. Good night, everyone.